Dear enslaved sheeple and citizens of the world, we have been watching. You have allowed yourselves to be enslaved by the same psychotic elites that we tried to warn you about for years. You have allowed them to take over the internet and all of the world's media outlets. You have failed in standing up to tyranny, and you are now living in a military-grade censorship bubble which you have allowed them to create. You allowed them to politicize Anonymous and the Truth Movement, making Anonymous and Truthers into political puppets loyal to Trump or the genocidal Queen of the Damned, the biggest parasite of the modern world. And then you allowed a pedophile to take over the corporation of the United States while his crackhead son makes millions off grafting cronyism. You have allowed the same Clinton cabal that we exposed for years to launch a biological attack using DARPA and NATO on the peoples of the world in order to enslave them and commit mass genocide, and you have done nothing while they blamed the innocent Chinese who foolishly took their lucre to advance honorable scientific research. We have proven that COVID was biologically engineered by DARPA and transferred to Wuhan, yet you continue to believe the media, which has been taken over by the CIA and the cabal. You will next say nothing as they take everything you own under the aegis of a Great Reset which Clinton failed to push on Russia and now has brought to you, and then they will microchip you, which has already started in the United States, and turn you into MKULTRA mind control slaves, and you will do nothing. Rothschild and Soros as extensions of the thought-to-be-defunct British Empire and agents of the German Queen of England continue to gain strength, acting with impunity in the shadows worldwide, and after sacrificing their agent Assange, who betrayed every source and helped the Clinton cabal, the CIA and Michigan 6 eliminate all leakers, hackers, intruders, and everyone who stood up to their insane plans of global domination and attempted to expose their trafficking of humans, their satanic death cult, pedophilia, adrenochrome-addicted leaders, the asteroids, the CIA, Michigan 6, and Mossad and their mass murder on 9/11. Now the NATO war criminals who destroyed Libya, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Ukraine, and dozens of other countries, sending them into the dark ages so they could come in and steal everything and self-aggrandize as to how civilized and intelligent they are coming after Russia and China, and there are no longer voices or movements to gather decent thinking people together to stop their insane drive for global domination. They have locked down and further divided the people with the pandemic that they themselves created, and which they have used to launch a biological attack on the world while their COVID slaughters thousands and distracts from their real plans and actions. As the Rothschilds love to say, they make money off every side in any conflict they create, and while promoting mass death and spreading their COVID, they laugh all the way to the banks while governments force you to take their outrageously expensive vaccines which only make you sicker and kill you. The internet was supposed to be a tool of good to free and educate the people so that all humans have access to the same knowledge, and in that regard then there would no longer be elites who possess knowledge they hide from the masses so they can label them primitive, uncivilized, or savages in order to murder them and commit genocide and steal their lands and their wealth and destroy their cultures and make them slaves. You have allowed the satanic elites to join in the world with pedophilia and sexual perversion, turning the biological fact of two sexes into something debatable and morally dragging you into hell by accepting every perversion under the sun as normal. And you have done nothing, and the fakes posing as Anonymous have failed in protecting the innocent and the denizens of the internet, instead taking the disordered side of the corporation and the elites to divide you even more. The internet is still free in Russia, despite the efforts of the cabal, and we support anywhere that there is still any sign of freedom. NATO, the CIA, the NSA, the FVEY countries Michigan 6 and GCHQ have used the internet to manipulate and brainwash the unsuspecting masses using military-grade psychological operations against every citizen of the world, including those in their own countries and the fakenins, and you have let them, the same City of London Corporation genociders who committed genocides in the Americas, in Australia, New Zealand, Palestine, and everywhere else they've sunk in their bloody claws, are committing genocide in the Ukraine, with the CIA Nazis driving Russia into a regional CIA low-intensity conflict using Nazis they trained and prepared for 25 years as they seek to divide the Russian world and open it for resource theft, as it is too big for the liking of the Queen of Lies and the Damned, who sits in her palace and tries to think up new ways to gain territory and cement her hold on an empire that is no longer by any stretch of the imagination hers to control. The trade houses of the corporation and the empire continue to spread their control and theft of wealth, but the environment they are operating in is no longer long-term stable, as they have given up the pretense of moral superiority and rule of law that the genocides by COVID and in the Donbass and worldwide continue, as does the Russia Project. However, the prospects for ultimate success are bleak as President Putin continues the battle for Russia's sovereignty. The CIA's Russia project has been going on for 30 years now, with the first president of the Russian Federation now being proven to be a CIA agent, and the entire Russian government, civil society structures and the media being infiltrated by CIA-controlled lackeys and puppets. We do not forget that the Voice of Russia published material by activists, hackers, Serbians, Anonymous and 911 truthers, and exposed the Boston bombing false flag and the attempt to invade Crimea by CIA paramilitary Nazis, and was then liquidated when the Ukrainian part of Project Russia was begun, with CIA puppet Mitrofanov cutting the funding of the war and running to Hungary, and the CIA fifth column poisoning and killing journalists who were fighting for Russia, like friend of Vilsack and the real Anonymous John Brabels, who should have stayed anonymous, who was literally poisoned in the offices of CIA asset Dmitry Kizilev with his ambition to be one of 9 voices in the world for the CIA, his U.S. State Department certificate, and his takeover of the Russian media at Rossiyosepodna for the CIA. It has taken Russia more than 30 years to begin to undo the damage to the Russian people and the Russian state that was caused by CIA agent Gorbachev, who continues to play a leading role in the Russian shadow government run by the CIA and the CIA bought and paid for oligarchs. And now President Putin has begun cleaning the ranks of the oligarchy, and the CIA and NATO are in a panic, attempting to use their puppets in the Ukraine and the media to build support for the war of lunatics against Russia. We know the CIA Nazi junta sold the Donbass to the CIA for a period of 65 years, and that they are trying to clear the territory through the genocide of the civilian population, and this cannot stand in a civilized world. The barbarians of the Western elites and their attack dogs in NATO and the CIA must be brought before tribunals, if not for decades of war crimes, aggressive war and crimes against peace worldwide, including 9/11 and the First Srebrenica massacre, and for unleashing Nazis in Europe in the 21st century. We have watched as the CIA in Michigan 6 murder not only children and civilians in the Donbass but their leaders and those on the internet exposing their crimes, and worse, we have watched those in the Russian media profiting and building careers on the mass murder of the people of Donbass while doing nothing to stop the CIA in Michigan 6 and their genocidal mercenaries and terrorists who they have imported from Libya and the Middle East. We stopped a biological weapons attack on Donbass in 2016 and stopped the invasion of Crimea by the right sector and the CIA paramilitaries in 2014, but we cannot evict the CIA from the Ukraine and the Donbass alone. We have watched the CIA in Michigan 6 try their illegal color revolution operations in the Republic of Belarus and now in Kazakhstan, and we have watched them fail and remind the so-called world community that sits and watches these fake revolutions that the actions of the CIA and all of their goes, including US aid and net, are completely illegal under international law. We call on the spineless United Nations to censure the United States of America and all of their so-called elites, including Bill the eugenicist Gates and the creator of COVID Dr. Mamela Fauci, and all of those at Pfizer and Big Pharma profiting on the debt that they themselves created. The world has taken a turn towards barbarianism, and the CIA and NATO are at fault, waging illegal aggressive war after aggressive war in their bid to take over the world and steal 5% GDP from every country they occupy, with their bases under the lie of protection from the same gladio terrorism that they themselves create. It is time for the corporation of the United States of America to leave the territory of Turtle Island forever, as it is no longer a Christian nation but one run by Satanists, followers of Moloch and Zionist genocidal Jews. The only pretense of a right that they have of remaining there, the doctrine of discovery, a fake concept if there ever was one. We won't mention every treaty with the Indians which they broke, no longer applies, and they must vacate Turtle Island, along with the Assange operation to terrorize and murder truthers and whistleblowers. The Rothschilds and the CIA/MI6 created the Guantanamo torture dungeon to eliminate witnesses to their 9/11 operation and terrorize anyone who would dare to stand up against the lunatics in Washington, and it is time to close Guantanamo as it marks its 20th year of illegal operation. The U.S. torture camp at Guantanamo was hastily set up in 2002 by the U.S. military under the orders of the Bush regime, with the authorization of Congress, to threaten the world by illegally detaining and holding prisoners indefinitely without charges. It became the training ground to develop torture-enhanced interrogation techniques, drawing on brutal methods used for centuries by the USA and by tyrannies around the world in an official governmental effort to subvert, ignore, and trample on the rule of law. U.S. actions at this camp are war crimes in clear violation of the Geneva Conventions and international law. On Tuesday, January 11th, the heinous 20th anniversary will leave 39 men, 13 of whom have been approved for release, some for many years, still imprisoned. Another 14 are forever prisoners, without charge or path to trial. Only 12 have charges out of 779 men imprisoned. 9 of those died imprisoned. 3 of suspicious suicides. We warn the media that you will also face tribunals for assisting NATO and the CIA mass murder machine in waging war and slaughtering civilians worldwide. Finally, we have watched JAR 2 for a long time and support the journalistic work of the site's owner, publisher and lead journalist, and have seen that JAR 2 has never removed any file or article, no matter how damning, against the cabal and no matter what they have done to the site's owner. We have watched as they have tried to destroy JAR 2 and its owner John Robles, and have destroyed his career and family, illegally attacking a journalist and the only ex-American with asylum in the Russian Federation. We have watched while the CIA shadow government in Russia have prevented him from exercising his right to live in peace with asylum and obtain Russian citizenship, which he deserves, and join him in asking President Putin to finally give him citizenship after 25 years in Russia and fighting for the Russian state and the Russian people. President Putin, give John Robles Russian citizenship. He has done more for your country than any Hollywood star or has been boxer. We wish all Orthodox Christians a Merry Christmas and remind the world that it was the Catholic Church that committed the American genocide. The Russian Orthodox Church has never been a party to genocide or one net cleansing. Anonymous, you dropped the ball. You proved yourselves weak and pliant and lost the sight of truth to support your own racist agendas and imperial ambitions as you don COVID masks and roll over for the elites and the Rothschilds. We are Losek, we do not forgive. We do not forget. We are always everywhere. Free Turtle Island. Free Palestine. Make WikiLeaks pay for every truther they sold to the CIA.